The bell is ringing for the back-to-school bash at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe. Don't be late to add up big factory incentives combined with final dealer subtractions on current inventory. Get back-to-school savings in a new 25 Ford F-150 STX. Buy for $699 a month plus 4.9% APR financing for 72 months. Or a new 25 Ford Bronco Sport. Lease for just $399 a month. It all adds up to a great time to buy during the back-to-school bash at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe. The bell is ringing for the back-to-school bash at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe. Don't be late to add up big factory incentives combined with final dealer subtractions on current inventory. Get back-to-school savings in a new 25 Ford F-150 STX. Buy for $699 a month plus 4.9% APR financing for 72 months. Or a new 25 Ford Bronco Sport. Lease for just $399 a month. It all adds up to a great time to buy during the back-to-school bash at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe.
Ladies and gentlemen, from La Casa de los Lobos, the pit, here at the University of New Mexico, let's get ready to rumble!
Gonna hit you with the triple hey there. My name's Ryan Tamori. Welcome to the Pit Press Live. Busy show tonight. Very good to be back. Thanks to Capital Ford Santa Fe, Affordable Solar, Turquoise Desert Tap Room. We're 15 days away from 16 days away. That's it. There's that same pious education, Ed. And now the season starts where I have Ed Nunez on and Ned James. So Ed and Ned, Ned and Ed. Have fun with that. Happy to be back tonight, getting on the football train. Hopefully more shows next week. And then, an out your ass season preview as we head into the 2025 UNM football season. I've been out at practice, whether it's the morning or now the afternoon. And to quote Rob Thomas and Santana, it's been, I hope you were able to hear that. It's been pretty hot out there. But I think there's a method to Coach Jason Eck and his, and his madness and his coaching staff's madness. So, some quick house cleaning beforehand in like a minute or two. Was very happy to meet this guy. He's a guy's guy, sound like Gruden, on the sideline at practice. He's a running back from New Mexico, Clovis, Micah Gray. Very excited to have him on. And then the only quarterback whisperer, Ned James, on after Micah. Looking forward to that. It's been a hot minute since we've had Ned on. It's no disrespect to Micah, but Ned's, I'm sure he knows he's one of a kind. Before I introduce my co-host tonight, the Pit Press Plus, your all-access pass to the heart and the hustle of the University of New Mexico Athletic Department. With a monthly or yearly subscription, you'll unlock behind-the-scenes stories you won't hear anywhere else, whether you're a diehard fan, a stats junkie, or just here for the spicy locker room gossip. The Pit Press Plus has something for you. Subscribe today. Support local sports journalism. Whether it's us, Jared, Brad, Van over at 13, Jeff and Sean over at the Journal, or the one, the only Will Weber and James Barone up at the Santa Fe New Mexican. Nick Copeland down in Las Cruces. And remember, real Lobos don't settle for the sidelines. $2 a month or $25 for the entire year. I think we're still running a Father's Day sale in August 1999. All Lobo, no filter. Go to the pitpressnm.com. Stay in the loop with with Lobo Sports. Follow the Pit Press for exclusive updates, interviews, and behind-the-scenes content. It's a word I despise. Find us on Instagram, X, and Facebook at the Pit Press NM. And we're trying to adapt to the youngins. We're on TikTok at the Pit Press. My co-host tonight, the one, the only, the voice of the, I'm saying that a lot tonight, the voice of the Western New Mexico Mustangs and a play-by-play announcer for ProView Networks. I had to think about that for a second, Ed. I'm sorry. And football season starts next week. High school, Mr. Ed Nunez. Ed, how you doing?
Yes, it does. So I've got 2 games next week. I've got Manzano and Highland on Thursday, and then Aztec and Rio Grande on Friday. So indeed it does. And then Western New Mexico plays August 30th, the same night that unfortunately New Mexico plays. So I'll have to get the recording when I get back, and I will. So yeah, it's and then with Western, the season just it gets football and then it's volleyball the next week. So here we go. So and I was out at practice with you on Sunday for an hour. I think I've been out there 3 times, and Sunday, man, there's just no shade there, right? So, but you, Ned, and I, chopped it up a little bit and had fun. Anytime you're around Ned, he's going to have you in stitches about something, man. That's my guy. And some of these stories we cannot share, obviously, but they're very funny.
He's got some good stories. He had a really good story about Baltimore. You know me, I love the history. He had not to bore anybody, he had a really good story about Baltimore Ravens defensive lineman Michael McCrary. And I happen to be wearing, I didn't even think about it, I'm wearing my 2000 NFC champion New York Football Giants shirt. They lost to the Bullies of Baltimore. About Michael McCrary, who was on that D-line. Wasn't the most talented guy, but damn, he worked her ass off. So he had a really good story about him. And that was PG. Not to discredit Ned. But I'm sure I'm sure most people will be looking forward to him tonight. All right. I told my next guest 8:15, so now I'm running late. My bad, Micah. Our first guest for the evening. All right. He our first guest tonight. Let me get it right because I like to do my guest due diligence. A Clovis High School standout. At Clovis, he rushed for 2,784 yards and 42 touchdowns over 2 seasons. Holy hell, you didn't tell me that. Earning Offensive Player of the Year honors and showcasing explosive playmaking. I don't follow high school sports here, man. That's my bad. With runs of 77 and 58 yards, he was named Mountain West All-Academic in 2018. He balanced his athletics and his academic excellence. He played in 12 games in 2019 for UNM, scoring his first touchdown and rushing for 84 yards, including a career-best 35 against Utah State. In 2018, he had some key special teams tackles and 7 carries. And I'll ask him about this because I think this was a Bob Davie thing. He was a 2-time New Mexico Man honoree. Man, I was really happy to bump into you on the sidelines at football practice. His name is Micah Gray. Micah, man, how are you tonight?
Hey, I'm well. Thanks for having me on.
I hope that introduction wasn't lackluster, but I was not aware of the – I'm sorry, go ahead.
I haven't heard those stats in a while, those high school ones.
Well, I'm not, I'm making fun of myself here, man. I was talking to you, you're like, yeah, I didn't do much at UNM. And then I'm reading that. And then I sent this to Ed, and I was living in New Jersey at that time. So my bad. But he was like, dude, these numbers are off the charts. So those are some awesome numbers. This is my co-host, Ed Nunez. Ed, I'm going to throw it over to you for, a couple high school questions because those numbers are outstanding.
Micah, it's they were. I cover high school football. We don't cover a lot of Clovis in town. But back in the day, man, the Wildcats, tradition with Coach Roanhouse. What coach did you play for?
I played for Roanhouse. Yep.
Eric or Chad?
Eric.
Okay, so Eric, they just named the field after him. Was it last year? And
last year, yeah.
Eric, larger than life, right? A larger than life figure. You rushed for 2,784 yards. That stood out to me. I went to Highland. I'm a lot older than you, but I played basketball, but Clovis beat Highland, I think, in 79, and one of their guys got 300 yards against Highland. And that's it. Seriously, the guy killed us, and Highland was loaded. They killed him. So Clovis had a winning tradition of football. So I want to ask you a little bit about playing the legendary Eric Roanhouse, and I'll ask you a follow-up question after that. But what was it like playing? I mean, the guy, again, they just named the field after him. He's also, people won't remember, a basketball official. He officiated high school basketball, and a pretty darn good one. He was in some state championships. Tell us what it was like about playing for Eric Roanhouse at Clovis.
Man, I mean, all the stories are true. All the legendary stories you hear about him are true, whether good or bad, PG or not PG, right? As you just said, Ryan. But I actually had a unique perspective playing with him. One of my best friends is actually his grandson, Sebastian, who was my quarterback. So I knew Coach Roanhouse as a young kid, and I was really excited to work our way up to middle school, elementary school, middle school, get up to high school, and actually play for him, along with his grandson, and then one of our other friends, Lane, who Darren Kelly was the defense coordinator for a long time at Clovis. We were all the same age, so for all of their family, right, uncles, dads, grandpas. It was unique. Coach Roanhouse was old school, man. He was hard to the core, run it down your throat, right? He had an identity. Everyone in the state knows it. People on the West Coast know it, right? In football, Coach Roanhouse is going to run the damn ball, right? That's what he says. And it was true, man. He had a high expectation. It was greatness, right? Whenever you played for him, it was expected to perform. And yeah.
Almost like Coach Bill Gentry here at Highland. Coach Gentry was a legend, and
right.
he hasn't coached at Highland for many. He passed away, but he was a legend running that Delaware, wing T offense. And you mentioned running the ball. That's what Highland did. But Clovis had that personality. And you mentioned Coach Roanhouse, larger than life. But I got to ask you this because it's sad to me, right? What it's become. And, and I asked a couple of people. I think I can't remember who I asked. Maybe it was Drew Hatley. Did some coaching down there. Yeah. And football defined that town, man. And some basketball, too. But remember, not as much as football. They had Bubba Jennings, Nelson Franz, Jimmy Joe Robinson. Before Coach Robinson died, I wrote a story on Bubba Jennings, and I got to talk to Coach Robinson. And Coach Robinson was a hoot, man. He was already, 80-something at that time. But he would tell a story, and then when he was done, that little southern drawl of his, he'd say, "Can I tell you another?" Heck yeah, Coach. He'd tell me about, and then he'd say, I wasn't very good at basketball or at history or biology, but I know my basketball. Oh, had me rolling, had me really did. So in that, the football team largely defined that town, man. It did. So I just got to ask you. They've had several different coaches, and it's not the same anymore. Nothing is, right? I mean, Highland's probably not the same as it was back then, but Clovis football was always on top. And now in the last couple of years, you've seen changes. They're not the powerhouse they used to be. What's happened there as far as what you've seen? What's happened?
Yeah. Well, I don't go back a whole lot, so I'm not as involved as obviously I once was, but a couple different things. First one being it's hard to replace a legend. I mean, like he was there, he coached for 40 years? Like how do you all of a sudden overnight replace 40 years of tradition, of history, and of expectation? You show up and you need to perform. Like I said, if there's a new guy in town, then you could say you have the Clovis hat, right? Bleed purple and everything, but Coach Rowan was the life and soul and the heart of the football team. He was the program. So losing that itself, I mean, it's hard to replace. One, two, I think like just around the country or at least around the state, football is kind of lacking in participation at some schools. And so it's hard to build a lot of programs up if you don't have as many kids out there playing. So a mix of the two. You have some coaches, right, bouncing around. You can't really build any momentum. If you build it, they'll come, right? But if nothing's built, then people won't come, and it's hard to have a following and support and something to play for, right? Something to have pride for.
That tradition, that Clovis tradition. You mentioned that back in the day, the C on the helmet, man. You saw, that scared a lot of people. They had a tradition of winning. I don't even know how many championships Coach Roanhouse won. It was a lot. But I had to ask you that, man, because you also something. What's that?
I think like 10, 11, 12.
Yes. I mean, the guy was amazing, man. He really was. I had to ask you that because, you also played basketball there and Clovis at that time. Hopefully they come back, it's tough. Like you said, somebody like that leaves. It's, it's going to be a drop off and they don't get the numbers they used to. So that's another thing. And you're right, around the state, although Cleveland, they still get their numbers, Rio Rancho. But some of them, like you said, back in the day, there's a lot more parents not wanting their kids to play football and for other reasons. But I had to ask you that. Ryan, go ahead.
All right, man. I'll start with your career at UNM. Probably most, your 2018 season. I know it was a redshirt freshman year, but you had a pair of key special team tackles against New Mexico State. I know you're from down south, but you're doing it against the rival. What did that mean to you?
Oh man, I almost said some bad words right there. that was nice. That was a nice statement piece. A little backstory to that actually. So I was a preferred walk-on and came in, obviously redshirt freshman year through camp. I was one of the guys that freshman year scout team, just went hard every time. And then camp, I actually had a decent camp going against some people, projected starters, right? And just through the old story of a lot of hard work and you win a couple reps, next thing you know, you get put up in the starting position and you make some plays on special teams and you get an opportunity. So that came through an injury, and all of a sudden I got called up to the kickoff team. And New Mexico State, if I remember correct, I don't remember who their running back was that year. We'd have to look it up, but he was a dog, if I remember correctly. So he was back there returning kicks, and that was a big threat for the full week. And so it was my first lineup at kickoff, and I went down, just did my job. I think I went around somebody. Next thing you know, ball carrier appeared, put a shoulder right into her sternum, had a nice little hit, and geeked up the sidelines and got some momentum. And it felt very rewarding, right, from the preferred walk-on story and everything, getting called up. Next thing you know, you make a tackle, and then let's see what you can do from there.
I'm trying to look on Football Reference, but there's a couple of running backs on there with a decent year. What was the recruiting? I mean, your numbers stand out. What was your recruiting process like, and were there any bigger schools that recruited you, or was it UNM? Was it New Mexico State? Who reached out to you, and what was that process like?
We need like 3 hours for that one, but
you got plenty of time. Trust me.
Yeah. Recruiting was interesting, and I'm sure everybody would say the same thing. My recruiting path was mostly the FCS Division II. I had pretty much the entire Southland Conference. Had offers from those guys. Had a couple FCS opportunities. I got NAU, Rice, or I guess the FBS, NAU, Stephen F. Austin, and who else was in that conversation? I don't even remember at this point. I remember Rice and NAU, or NAU and Stephen F. Austin, because those were the two that I really wanted to go to. NAU, Northern Arizona University, they had been competing in the Big Sky. They were on the come up, right? They had some good opportunities. I'd been going to a camp there for a couple years, knew some of the coaching staff. I was getting recruited pretty heavy, and they landed a monster recruit the year before me, running back out of California. And then the same class, they also swung another guy, a 4-star kid. I don't know if he had some bad grades or something. And all of a sudden, I got chopped off the block because, they had 2 California kids come in, and that just is what it is in the recruiting world. And then Stephen F. Austin, they had a coaching staff change. Didn't, new stuff came in, didn't have any opportunities with them. And then Rice, I was really, really looking at Rice. So I went to a camp there my junior year. Funny story, actually, Ed, you'll like this one. So I show up, I'm going on the South Texas Bend into Louisiana summer camp junior year. And we get to Houston, go to Rice. This is like my 6th camp in like 8 days at this point. Man, I'm beat up. And walk up to register. It's like 6:30 in the morning. And I shake the guy's hand. I had some Clovis shorts on. And coach walks up. He said, "You Clovis Wildcats?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Is Coach Roanhouse still there?" He sure is, man. He's kicking it. He said, "Hold on a second." He walks away, gets on the phone, calls Coach Roanhouse. They had this is before camp starts. He's chopping it up with Coach Roanhouse early in the morning. I guess they had some connection. Who knows where from? And he walked up to me and he said, "Coach Roan, give me your word. So, let's perform today." I ended up having the best camp of all the camps that day. And the Rice was in. And I was also interested in the academic side of things. And downtown Houston was really cool. Rice, the campus was awesome. They opened with Oklahoma the next year. And I was just like, this has got to be the calling, right? Fast forward, long story short, I take the ACT 3 times and I can't get into Rice. And so their coach calls and he was like, "Hey, if you can, come gray shirt, meaning you're on academic probation for the fall, and then you come in the spring, think we can get it to work." I don't know if y'all have looked up the Rice tuition, but it's pretty expensive, and it was out of our budget to pay for that fall, let alone you throw in college football, right? If Rice has a bad year and coaches leave, all of a sudden I'm stuck, as a regular student there. And so the gray shirt thing it was really disheartening, especially as a senior in high school, right? And wanted to go there. But UNM reached out the summer of my senior year, going into my senior year. Coach Boone Baumgartner, he recruited me. And UNM was a pretty easy sale. I was a GA with the university, so from the university's perspective, UNM didn't really have to offer me. They offered me a preferred walk-on spot. But that's because I didn't have any FBS offers for them to match. I don't know if y'all know much about the recruiting world, but there's kind of a game about it. If there's no other FBS offers, they can kind of wiggle a carrot in your face, right? Once you get some other offers, then they have to match the offers. And I never got the big one. So I came in as a preferred walk-on. It was a really easy sell for me, right? It's down the street. I didn't want to go D2. I wanted to go Division I, whether that's FCS or FBS. UNM led the country in rushing the year before. They ran the triple option, right? They had that high-powered 4-5 running back offense. Lamar was here. They were just destroying everybody. Easy sell for running back, right? Down south. Like, of course I'd come here, man. Lead the country in rushing. I'll come pay my dues for a couple of years, be a special teams guy, and get an opportunity junior year. Like, let's do it, man. So, yeah, ultimately, it's how we ended up here.
Man, that's rough with I don't know much about recruiting, and I'm going to gather even from, 9-10 years ago with NIL, And I'm not trying to sound cliche. I'm sure a lot of shit's changed. Like, I'm sure it's completely different, man. Yeah, no, once you said Rice and then the way you were explaining, I was like, I literally, I mean, I knew Rice was in Houston. I was trying to think where it is. And then I saw the tuition and I was like, well, yeah, that's rough. But it's rough for a lot of people. That'd be rough for me, But no, that was an interesting story, man. I really appreciate that. Can you talk about, your time as a redshirt freshman under Bob Davie? I'm not trying to put you on the spot, whether good or bad, but what was your experience like? They came off of back-to-back bowl games, and then it just seemed to kind of like the wheels fell off. But I mean, you're still on a division. I sound so negative here, but you were still on a football team. What was that experience like?
Yeah. It was easier for me probably than some of the other guys. One, because local, right? I had home cooking 4 hours away. My parents would come up here and cook for everybody, and it was a little easier for me to transition compared to moving here from Jersey, right? So that transition wasn't too bad for me. And the coaching transition actually wasn't bad because Coach Roan and Davey had very similar styles. They're old school, right? Good on good, full pads. Like we're here to work. And some guys came from private schools where there were helmets 4 days a week, and it's a little harder physically and demanding, especially getting into the college world. So that transition actually wasn't too difficult for me mentally, but physically it was pretty tough. Coming from New Mexico football, right? And I had a pretty successful high school career, and then all of a sudden everybody is as good as you and or better. And I mean, whenever I committed, my mom sent me a picture of who is now a really good friend. His name is City, middle linebacker, JC from Mount Sac. I mean, dude was 24, 6'3", 250 when I'm getting here. And my mom sent me a picture and she was like, "Are you sure you're ready for this?" Like, these are grown men out here. I just turned 18. So the physicality part was pretty challenging. Freshman year, my fall camp, I think it was a 3 scrimmage at the end of a practice. So the 1s and 2s have their scrimmages, and then they have like a developmental scout team scrimmage with the freshmen to kind of go out there and just let's see what we've got out there to have fun. And man, I was a pretty intelligent guy, so I picked up PBU, which is pass block, pretty well. And I do my reads 1, 2, scan over the middle, see a linebacker coming, step up, picture perfect, right, for a freshman. Up until this point, this is film. This is coaching teach tape right here. Linebacker puts his head right under my chin and just throw it. I explode 15 yards back into the quarterback. Quarterback gets sacked, and it's just bad news from there. So that's a little introduction to college football. You just get obliterated one time by a grown man, and you're like, "Oh, is this for me? I don't really know if this is how it's going to be." But freshman year is a lot of lifting. You're eating 5,000 calories a day just to put on weight. We had a developmental group with Coach Davey. He's retired now, so I guess I can expose everything that he did. All the freshmen and the JUCO guys, he had what's called a developmental squad. So you're there, you don't participate in team meeting. You do the large team meeting, and then you go lift for an hour and a half or 2 hours. And it's a full lift, like 100% off-season lift. And then you go to scout team. Then you go practice for 3 hours. So it was pretty brutal on the body, but the purpose of it is you got to build mental strength, right? You got to work while you're sore. You've got to build in repetition, get the guys ready for the week. I'm on the scout team side. And then you've also got to go earn a spot for spring. And the first couple of weeks are tough, but then you have a lot of camaraderie, right? You've got all the other freshmen with you. You've got some JUCO guys, and that's what builds, which is unfortunately kind of lost today, is that you build that with those group of guys, right? The first year's a grind. Like, it sucks. It's not a whole lot of fun. You don't get to travel. You don't really get to participate much. And then come the next year, some people start participating and playing a little bit, right? And then you now have this core group of guys every year, and that's where the team and the chemistry come from. Freshman year, it was just a grind, man. It was just, let's get through the day. Let's go bench all this weight and get hit in scout team and have some fun.
You mentioned the physicality part, and David House, he was the head coach of Rio Rancho for a while and stepped away. Then he was coaching UNM with Coach Gonzalez, and he's back now as the head coach at Cibola. He's a heck of a coach, man. He is. Yeah. But he mentioned that everybody's when you go from high school to college, everybody's as fast as you. Some are bigger, stronger, and you just mentioned that the physicality part. You did your read, perfectly, and some guy blew you up. That's some physical specimen. And I think one of the things that our guests Ned James will be on later to talk about physicality of practice. And believe me, when I tell you, who Ned is, that guy has more football knowledge than anybody I know. When he talks football, I didn't play, I cover it. There's a big difference. And he's been there at the pro level, at the college level. So when he says something, I'm like, let me think about that, because he's normally right. He's talked about the physicality of practice. He wanted to see a little bit more of that. And you just mentioned, I'm only seeing that in my mind, what you talked about. Picked him up, 1-2, bam, right, boom. Yeah. And then, some guy at Highland, I was going to play, and he cured. I was a hooper, right? He cured any football aspirations I had by blowing my knee. Honest to God, in a park football game. This kid would hit him. No. He was one of the toughest football players I ever saw. A small guy that was just looking to hit whoever had the ball. Yeah. And when he hit me in my knees, I'm like, yeah, man, I don't think so. I don't think I'm 6'1", and I could have played. But after he did that, I was like, maybe not. So I think that's one thing that people don't. The physicality. It looks fun till you get. What did Mike Tyson say? Till someone gets get punched.
Oh, my favorite saying.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. But you mentioned
that's legit. Yeah.
Go ahead. You mentioned Coach Davey and the backs. You mentioned Lamar Jordan. Terrion Gibson, Daryl Chestnut, Presley, they had speed to burn, man. And I remember that, that's the last time UNM went to a bowl game, but I got to say this, and I'm hoping you're part of the alumni club, Alumni Letterman's Association. My good friend Aaron Givens is part of that. Some other friends of mine too. But, you mentioned that team there, and that team was very entertaining. And 22,000 came out to watch. It didn't really move the meter that much, man. So I'm hoping. Look, I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy. That the fans have been away a long time. I still don't understand why Krebs did what he did in firing Rocky. That was a big mistake. Coach Davey was, had a few good seasons, and then as Ryan mentioned, the wheels fell off. But the man, according to Ned James, Ned said it, that Bob Davey knew football. The guy had been at Texas A&M and Notre Dame, right? It's not, when he came in, I was like, man, he was 35-25 at Notre Dame. So I'm thinking, man, he's from Notre Dame. He's coming here. Worked out for a couple of years. Then, it came off the wheels. But I got to ask you this. You've been out of practice. You've seen it. They lost Danny Gonzalez. This is their third coach in 4 years. And this is a program, and I'm just telling you the truth. Okay, I'm a Lobo fan since, like Ryan said, since 1970. It's a program that's had a hard time finding its footing ever since Coach Long has been here. Bob Davey, 2 winning seasons. They're entertaining. I love to watch them. What's your prospects? What you've seen so far? I don't want to put you on the spot. You've been out there and watched. What do you think about their prospects are for this season?
Well, from a macro perspective, I've had the opportunity to meet all the coaches, the coaching staff. They're great. I think Coach Eck is doing all of the right things, and it's nice to see. I feel like the last couple of coaches have had different mixes of good and bad, and I'm relating to specifically like the alumni connection, the public connection, the university connection. I think Coach Eck is doing a great job. I haven't seen a coach in the student section at a basketball game, I don't think ever since I've been here. And we need those things. You mentioned people aren't in the crowd. 22,000 fans were there. It's because it lacks some of the community part, right? If you don't interact with the students on campus in a non-football town, they're not going to come. Like, you have to show face for them to come. You also have to win, but you have to be there and show them, right? He went to it's called Fiestas. It's a big concert thing that they do over at Johnson Field for all the students. And he went on stage and displayed a jersey to the lead act, and like those things is what gets energy and what gets buzz on campus, and that's how you get students involved, and that's what drives that participation. On top of that, Fern, the new AD, is great. Mm-hmm. He's awesome. I'm very optimistic and hopeful of him. But Ryan and I were talking, ironically, at practice about we got to make it family friendly to get into the stadium. Like, for a family of four parents, 2 kids, to take their kids to a football game, they're spending $200 on a Saturday. And it's just like, not to get political, but like in today's world, like $200 every Saturday, and then you got to throw in food, and then everything that comes with it. It's just unattainable for families. We need to get people back in the stadium. It has to be affordable, reasonable, and also fun. And then all of a sudden, right, Ryan, we saw, I don't know if y'all saw how kids get in free now, and then the tickets are lower, and that's great. That is wonderful. You want to get people in the door, you got to do things like that and win. That helps. But I think just because we've seen those things happen, fans will come if you build it. Right now we've got to win or at least have an entertaining show to watch. People will come. And I think it's nice to see them doing all the right things. Now, to get onto the field, those don't necessarily translate to winning, right, with the team. Our running back room is deep. I think that's the deepest room of all in the team. We've got a couple guys that can go. Obviously, we're all really excited to watch Scott Trey run. But the running back room, they've got a deep room. I'm excited to watch them go. Coach Eck wins where he goes. He takes his OC with him, and it's the pro style. It's a little, if you're not a pro style guy, it could be a little slow at times, but they mix it up. They've got some trickery here and there. Mm-hmm. They do scheme up people. First year can be challenging, but I mean, in today's world of football, like teams go 2-9 one year and they go 9-2 the next year. Like it's just, I genuinely don't know. We'll see. And I mean, Michigan, but really the week after is when we'll know. We've got to put an O-line together. We're kind of mixing and matching just from what I've seen out there right now with some returners and some guys we've brought in. I don't know if we have our set one yet, but at this point in camp, they're probably getting close to getting their starting O-line and start front seven.
Yeah, they mentioned in the paper today. I got one more question. I'll hand it back over to Ryan. They made some adjustments in their offensive line. So you're right. They're getting there. They're getting close. So they felt. I think Coach Eck feels like that's a strong part of their team. You mentioned the running back room, but I think all the things you said are true. Get the kids in free environment. Now let's be honest. That stadium needs a lot of work, man. It does. They got a new video board in that helps, and nothing's going to snap of a finger and $50 million and it's new. That's not going to happen. But I think all those other things you mentioned, they've got to win. Fern Lobo is one of the most genuine dudes, right? You see him, he wants to change things here. But I think one of the things, Micah, this, man. You played for a winning culture at Clovis. Mm-hmm. You knew you expected to win. Coach Roanhouse won 12 championships, right? I'm the voice at Western New Mexico. Western New Mexico struggles in the Lone Star against those Texas teams. They can beat Adams State and Sul Ross, maybe Highlands. When they go up against Kingsville and those other Texas teams in our conference, sheesh, it's a different story. We lack the resources. We lack what those teams have. Now I'm not saying we can't win. I'm always hoping, but I've seen it. This is my 6th year being the voice. I know what's going on. So all those things that you mentioned, you've got to change the culture, man. And hopefully, Coach Mendenhall did a almost on the cusp of a bowl game last year, and it would have been interesting to see who would have been around to play that bowl because the transfer portal had opened. That would have been interesting to see who would have been left. But like you, I want to see them succeed. I'm excited. I like Coach Eck. He is a great guy. He's trying to promote the program. Danny Gonzalez, you'd see him around town. Danny wanted to be here. He did. He's a Valley guy, man. He wanted to stay here. So I think all those things, you're right. But you've got to win. You got to win the games, man. You got to win. Those promotions will help, but you got to make people want to come out. A friend of mine used to say, if it's a football town, they'll be out there at 1, 3, 7, no matter what time the game's at, they're there. So hopefully we see that atmosphere at University Stadium. I'm always glass half full guy, not a Pollyanna. I'll tell you the truth if they ain't no good either. I'll tell you the truth, but I want them to be. So I think all those things you mentioned are true, and let's just hope for good times this year. The schedule is tough. Michigan, Idaho, UCLA, Boise State, San Jose State. So they got the work cut out for them, man. But Ryan, sorry about that. I didn't mean to go on a ramble.
No,
but
no, you're
I got
good.
rolling there. Yeah.
Micah, one last question. You said you're a board member on the Alumni Association. Nothing with football, just a member of Letterman's Club. What's your job there? What do you do there? I mean, what's it like being a board member? That's a dumb question.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's kind of broad, to be honest with you. As a board member, which is the Greater Alumni Association, so all UNM alumni, right? I chair the engagement committee, and that role is it's so much. I mean, it ranges from different events. We're now working on homecoming and a couple other things. It ranges from, I believe there are 16 like kind of affiliate groups, meaning so the alumni are kind of broken out. It's at different demographics. For example, there's which I was the former president of, the Young Alumni, right? So that chapter just embraces, people of the younger age. There's a Black chapter, there's an Hispanic chapter, there's a Native chapter. So we're kind of like overseeing all of those assets. Our big event is the Green Chili Roast, which is coming up. We're hosting it at Windrock Park here in Albuquerque. Hope everyone can come out, buy some green chili. It's a great time. With some camaraderie with some former alumni. Really, community service, right? It's really giving back and being a voice for the alumni in general. And that's across the country. So we have chapters in DC, San Diego, Dallas, Fort, right? Where there's a Lobo, there's an alumni. And so, yeah, I've been on about a year, or I was a young alumni for 3 years. This is the first year with the Alumni Association. So.
No, appreciate that answer, because I don't, I wrote for the newspaper, so I was the Antichrist. I'm going to be cliche guy. What is your prediction for this season, the 2025?
Oh, man, you're going to do that?
Yeah. I like talking to you, so you're going to get that. You're going to get cliche, stupid question.
Let me pull up my schedule real quick. People ask me these questions, so I'm a college football guy. I'm watching MACtion. I think we talked about it the other day. Like, I'm watching Tuesday night MACtion. It's horrible. I'm a fiend for it. So
I made that joke to you on the sideline, because I was like, the night of the presidential election was the last MACtion. I was like, MACtion's gone, man. The world might end. MACtion's gone. So I need it. It's really bad that I know this by heart. Michigan, Idaho State, UCLA, New Mexico State, San Jose State, Boise State, and then you start to lose me because my travel plans. But I'll throw those out.
Yeah. Whenever people ask me these, whether it's professional or just on the personal side, I always give 2 answers. I give my what I would want to happen answer, and then I give my football fanatic answer, which is probably a little more realistic. But I've got the schedule pulled up here. So my 2, right? Let's put the Lobo hat on. Or here, you'll like this. Let's put I'm in my office, so you can see all my stuff. But here, this is for my Lobo fan. Here we go.
Literally Lobo hat. I love it.
I love it, Micah. I love it, man. All right.
Not the shield. The shield. Thank God. Not the bees. Not the shield.
Yeah, no. Oh, well, I have I've collected all the stickers, and I had them all on here, but they fell off. So my Lobo hat, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going 8 wins.
Okay.
Now, is that the fantasy guy talking, or is that the fantasy football guy talking, or which one is that?
That's my football, or
that's his Lobo hat.
That's my Lobo hat.
Yeah. All right.
Now my betting hat is 1.
You know what the line is for Michigan, right?
No, did it open? What is it?
Oh yeah, it was open like in May. I've seen 34.5 and 35.
That's not too bad. I think whenever we played A&M, it was like 50 my freshman year, or like 49 or something. My betting hat, I'm gonna go. I mean, the over/under is 3, right? I'm gonna go 4.
Okay.
We'll squeeze one out.
I mean, I don't know how good San Diego State's going to be. I know Sean Lewis there is kind of an offensive guru, but I mean, I'd go
Kent
play
State, man. Flash fast.
Yeah, flash fast. Yeah, I love it. And then he left Kent State to go be with Dion for a year. Yeah, and they went 4-8. His name is Micah Gray. He's a former running back for the University of New Mexico. He's a board member of the UNM Alumni Association and just a member of the Letterman's Club. I hope I had that all right. I ran into him at football practice, and I hope he can become a regular on this show, just talking football during the season. But Micah, I appreciate you taking 40 minutes of your time tonight, putting the Lobo hat on for many. Yeah, I'm glass half empty kind of guy. He's Ned Ed is here. I go with Ned and Ed. Ed is glass half full, and I'm glass half empty kind of guy. But man, I can't appreciate talking to you tonight and taking some time with us.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me on. I'd love to come back and we can do some chalk talk. Yeah, love that stuff.
We'll definitely do that.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
I'll be bugging you. Of course, that was Micah Gray, former UNM running back. I'm going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be back with the one, and I'll read a comment and the comments. Be back with the one, the only Mr. Ned James. Looking forward to that. And Ed, I'm going to apologize in advance. I'm going to do it all damn season now. Ned. And I was like with you. I almost called you. I already called you Ned. So anyway, we'll be right back.
The bell is ringing for the Back to School Bash at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe. Don't be late to add up big factory incentives combined with final dealer subtractions on current inventory. Get back to school savings in a new 25 Ford F-150 STX. Buy for $699 a month plus 4.9% APR financing for 72 months. Or a new 25 Ford Bronco Sport. Lease for just $399 a month. It all adds up to a great time to buy during the Back to School Bash at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe.
All right, welcome back to the Pit Press Live. Thanks to Micah Gray. And let's see if I can cue up the music. It's not his song, but I'm going to meet him halfway with some Earth, Wind, and Fire. He's a former quarterback for the University of New Mexico football team in the 80s. His name, and he's a radio analyst. Or excuse me, and I lost my train of thought there. He's the football analyst for the Lobo Radio Network. And before I mess up his name and Ed's name, his name is Mr. Ned James. Ned, it's always a pleasure. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, doing great, guys. How you guys doing?
Oh, we're hanging in there. I guess I'll start. What have you seen out of football practice?
Well, I see a team that's coming or trying to come together. You got so many new faces in different places, and with all the transfers coming in, I guess it's a situation where they're really trying to build a culture with guys that are basically getting to know each other for the first time this past spring, and some just coming into the fold this summer. So, there's a learning curve, and I think they're trying to get these guys all going in the same direction, and it's a different style, different way of doing it that is kind of unique. But same time, you just don't know until they say set hike on Saturday.
That's true.
Ed, do you want me to start with you, or do you want me to throw another question?
No, Ned, I got much respect for what you know about football. You've been around a lot of different levels, especially at the pro level. And so when you talk football, I listen, man. But is there anything that's in your trained football eye as far as talent? What stood out for you that seems? You mentioned that, Ned. It's a new program. Everybody's new to new offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, special teams, new head coach, the whole thing, new athletic director. Everything's new. Has there been anything that's stood out to you in a positive way? That you've seen and said, hey, maybe that looks good. That unit looks good. That player looks good. Is there anything that's stood out to you so far?
Well, as far as the units are concerned, like I've said before, I'm kind of just trying to get a feel for the style of play, how they're bringing everybody together. I mean, they did some things today I kind of liked. I liked early on how they played the ones against each other, and then they had on the other field, the twos and threes, I guess, going against each other. So they had two sets of team periods going on at the same time. I kind of like that. I mean, it's a unique situation when you have 51 new guys. You kind of want to see them play, and they have so many evaluators out there. This new deal in college sports where you can bring on these quality control assistant, defensive assistants, general managers, operations, all these different types of guys. But they really have a scouting, recruiting coordinators and guys that are evaluating the talent every day. And so they go and they change their board based on, their scouting reports. I mean, they're doing scouting reports on themselves, individual players. And so one guy may be first string, the first day, and then the next day, another guy's there. So they're really kind of trying to find the right pieces to this puzzle with the transfer portal. I mean, it's just, you have 51 new guys, even though coaches may like a guy and, there's personality quirks, you may not like a guy. It's good to get different views based on this new system of you're only going to, typically have these guys a year maybe, and then you might have to just get rid of them and bring in a whole batch more. So they're really trying to maximize who they see and how they see them fitting into their program and in their culture. But you're not going to be able to tell until the first game. You got to wait and see them go against a different color jersey. I mean, they're scrimmaging tomorrow. The one group, I guess, that I think, I kind of think, has the potential to be good because they've got pretty big guys as the offensive line. Everywhere else, I don't really see anything jumping out at me. As far as the skilled guys, the running back, I know a lot of people are really high on the talent level at the running back position. It doesn't jump out at me still. I mean, I'm trying to see what everybody else sees with the running backs. Guys are just smaller to me, and so I've got to wait and see them go up against comparable talent, particularly for this conference. And they won't see that for a couple, 3, 4 games. But in the meantime, they're going to roll guys in there and kind of see which guys play better under fire, and try to get this team to kind of come together with parts and pieces, trying to fit in certain guys and see, there's guys that they trust. The head coach, really a nice guy who for his quarterback, a lot of Idaho guys. So he trusts those guys. Those guys got him this job. So it's one of those things that you're going to have to wait and see, I think. It's interesting because a lot of guys are a little critical because, we're not used to seeing, kind of this level of play. But these guys have got a lot of snaps in them at the FCS level. And let's see what they got when they face the big boys now at FBS.
You mentioned how tough it is to get everybody going on the same page in the new program. I think you explained that pretty well. And you're right. One of the guys, I think Bo Hightower told Ryan, I believe, that the other day. Bo Davidson. Yeah. That we're sick of playing each other. We won't know till we play somebody else. And I'm sure, Ned, you've been out there, man. I'm sure the guys are sick of hitting each other, seeing each other. They're ready, man. They jump off against Michigan. They've got Idaho State, UCLA, New Mexico State, San Jose State. And this is a murderous. San Jose State, Boise State. Then they got Nevada, and then Utah State here at home, which UNLV, Colorado State, and Air Force. It's not an easy schedule, but I think, and then San Diego State, they wrap up the season there. But I think you're right. There's anticipation. But I got to ask you this one more question. I'll turn it back to Ryan. Speed kills. Team speed kills. Do you think they have anything to take the top off on offense? Have you seen that?
Well, we're going to have to wait until the game starts to see that. I mean, they've got guys that they think could take the top off. I haven't particularly seen a guy that I could say, oh, man, that guy, he's a burner. So I'm kind of waiting and seeing, maybe guys are just gamers, something. When you have that many new guys, there's hamstring injuries with guys. There's guys that are going through some things. The telling thing is when things go bad or when things aren't going the way they like it. Girls are on campus now. A lot of these guys are going to be on campus for the first time in the next coming weeks. It's kind of those things that you're going to start seeing things shake up shake out a little bit. But I know coaches chomping at the bit. I know the players are chomping at the bit to just get to a game. Like they said, they're tired of hitting each other. Coaches are tired of all these evaluations of players in shorts. They're hitting. They're going team. But I don't know how hard these guys are really going to play when the lights come on. So we're going to have to wait and see. I know that's kind of seems evasive for me because I usually kind of can get on a guy and say, hey, this guy's this or this guy's that. But you really have to give Coach Eck a chance because he's coming from a division where he's not been to FBS yet. He hasn't had to play a schedule of conference teams that are going to be similar, and he's got a lot of turnover. And so he's gonna, you gotta have to give him some time. And so we'll see what happens. This first month of the season, it's gonna be really judgmental. A lot of people are gonna, maybe want to throw in the towel the first quarter of the season, but you're gonna have to give him a little time to kind of get things going. He's gonna have to get a feel for how things go in FBS. And we brought him in because he was a winner at that FCS level or with several different teams. And so his name was on, the coach, the administrators list way before we gave him this. Name was on their list. He was high on their list 2 years ago. So, we'll see. We got to give him a chance. He's got the right temperament and personality, but, once the lights get on, it's like anything. They're starting to get a little tight over there, but, most coaches are the same way. So we'll see once we say set hike in a couple weeks, how good he is.
Ned, I'll ask you about the offensive line. I was talking to Sean Ryder at practice today, and they mentioned the kid from France. And I just lost it because
The offensive lineman.
Yeah, Malik Align, and then he wasn't playing today. I know they've kind of mixed and matched. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but you've been, kind of like, hey, I want to watch the offensive line. What have you seen out of them? What's the good? What's the bad?
Well, the good is that they've got some size, so they're not going to be overpowered too much, except maybe at the center position. But I just think they're going to have to get into a game, and I want to see how they are when it gets tough. You can't really tell because they don't hit a lot. I mean, they hit, but it's kind of a thud hit. I don't really see them getting after it too much on the offensive line. I think they're kind of holding them back, and they don't run them. It seems almost as they're being careful with it because they want to have these guys for the length of the season. But this is a physical game, and you got to practice being physical, and we'll see what happens once the game starts.
I've looked at the wide receiver group. Sean Miller said hi to Evan Wysong today. Keegan Johnson's had a little bit of a hammy. He's been back the last couple days. He was, running today. They obviously weren't in full pads, but I'm going to throw that position out, and then the secondary. And they just look, like the Frankie Edwards III. I mean, they look, and I had a pleasure meeting David Murphy. I hadn't talked to him. He's got New York roots, so it was cool to see him as a Giants fan. But they seem, this is the first since kind of the regime change. I was negative Nancy. I'm just, as I told you today, Ed, I'm not an X's and O's guy. I love the history of football in this country. They just look a little small. I don't know if that's going to really impact the secondary or the wide receivers much. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, they do look small. I mean, and they're, coming from FCS. A lot of the, guys have played a lot of snaps in FCS, and then now they're coming with the big boys now. So we're going to see if they can put their big boy pants on. They've got Vivian Coombs on the top end at safety. And I keep teasing him. I'm like, man, you ain't played that middle of the field. I mean, you were a box guy. He really did a great job for Rocky as a true freshman. Had some injuries the last couple of years, kind of banged up. I mean, he's really feeling good. He thinks that, he can really, do a lot. I mean, they're sliding him down the box a little bit. But he gives them a guy who's experienced, who's confident back there. I really want to see how well these FCS guys do when the big boy lights come on, because, it's one thing to play good for a game or two against, level competition, Idaho State. But what are they going to do when they got to go up against guys? Because every one of these FBS teams is going to have a guy that can really go, and how they handle that. And like you said, the smallness doesn't bother me as much as who's going to be able to make plays. Who the playmaker is going to be on offense and defense. So I'm still waiting to see the linebacking group. I'm curious to see how that group goes, and the defensive line. I'm looking for something on the defensive line, and hopefully we'll find out. During the Michigan game, we're going to find out. I mean, you're going to be able to tell early and often, how well the defensive line holds up.
We've talked to Gabe Lopez a lot after the last 2 years. He's kind of the senior, I don't know, he had a COVID year. I think he was telling us in Vegas. He's kind of got the super senior thing going on. I mean, he's got to be an undoubted leader. I know they got Demetri Johnson on there, in the linebacking core. Specifically, what are you looking for out of him? I mean, this is a defensive line that didn't get not alone, let alone sacks last year, but really didn't hit the quarterback at all last year. What are you looking out of somebody from him, like being one of the veteran guys?
Yeah, I had high expectations for him last year. They finished 132nd or something, one of the worst defenses in all of college football. But at the same time, I've always liked Gabe. I like his temperament. I like his, just his attitude when he steps between the lines. But he's got to produce. He's got to start making plays. They slid him inside, which I don't know how that's going to go, but he's up for the challenge, and I like his the fact that he stayed and the fact that he really believes in, being a part of the Lobos. I like that. I'm curious to see how Dimitri and Kapai play. I know Kapai's not in there as a starter, but I know he's going to probably play special teams and do some other things. I think he could really help from that standpoint. Jason Eck's son is the starting middle linebacker. He's coming over from FCS with a lot of accolades. I know Dimitri Johnson can do it. It's just going to be, can these guys do it when the lights come on and guys are rolling off that ball on them? Can you get off tackles? Can you get off blocks? Those kind of things for offense and defense. It's not even about, how you're tired of hitting, or playing against your own teammates. You got to show some things. And, the scrimmage will show a little bit tomorrow. We'll see which guys jump out and, how many, reps, they're doing a lot of substitution with guys. I'd like to see who their main, bell cow is going to be, who the guy they're targeting with their plays. That'll tell you a lot. And who makes plays, who stands out. We really got to see who stands out because the cream always rises to the top, and you've got to figure out which guys are going to be your playmaker guys. Is it Tavian Coombs on defense? Is it Abraham on defense? Is it Dimitri? Is it Eck? Is it Gabe Lopez? Is it the quarterback Lane on offense? Is it the running back? I don't know. They got several running backs. The running backs still don't jump out at me. I know a lot of people are saying a lot of good things about the running backs. I don't see anyone that's just that guy that just jumps out at me. The tight end does a lot of talking. I don't see him doing a lot. So I think he may be, kind of a guy they kind of try to go to in this first game. But we'll see. We'll have to wait and see. The receivers, I just don't know. I like the receivers coach, but I just don't see. I see too many drop passes in practice. And so I'm going to wait and see. I'm going to wait and see with that once the games start.
Sticking with the defensive line, I specifically wanted to ask you about Gabe since he's been on the team, and I like talking to him. Is Keyshawn James Newby? He came from Idaho, highly touted. He was at Montana Tech, and I overheard him talking to Sean Ryder, and he was like, "I never in my wildest dreams would think I'd be at a Division I level, regardless of where it was at." Have you kind of noticed him at practice? He's come highly touted.
Yeah, the problem with him is he's in and he's out. He's in, he's out. He's in, he's out. I don't like guys that don't play a lot of snaps. You got to get repetition. You got to get hits. You got to, play a lot. It just seems like it's too much for him to play a lot. They're rotating guys in a lot. I want to see him play a lot. I don't want to see rotation all the time. And I know they're trying to keep guys fresh. I know they're doing different packages. I understand all that. But maybe it's to get other guys in so guys don't get, down on themselves or whatever, because they were brought in here. But I just got to see him play a lot more. He flashes at times, but I don't see anything special yet. The games haven't started, so you can't really say. Sometimes guys are just gamers, so we'll see. And we're going to find out in this first game. We're going to find out who's a playmaker. All this, yelling and cheering, hoopla, and all that sort of stuff is good. You want to have a team that's energetic, but do they care about each other? Will they play for each other? Does it mean something to them? Does it mean something being a Lobo? We're going to find out.
And then I'll probably go ahead, Ned.
One other particular thing, the kicking game. That's to me the most important. So the return game, Abraham on the kick return and punt return, supposedly, he's that guy. So I want to see that. I want to see some dynamic. I want to see something happen with that. And then also, these kickers and punters. I know everybody likes Driswicki. I like him. He's a nice guy, but he's got to show me something. He's got to show a lot more consistency. And then they've got these new punters. They're booming the ball, but and they say they're good directional. But Aaron Rodriguez was a pretty good punter that we had last year. So that's going to be key as well. How they handle the special teams, the kickoff coverage, the kickoff return, punt and punt return. is going to be critical in this game in Michigan.
I'm going to throw it over to Ed if he has any other remaining questions, but I'm going to ask about the quarterback. What I've seen at the multiple practices I've been at, I like Jack Lane. He seems like he's got a sense of humor. And I know I'm probably insane for saying this. I would think they might go with Lobstein. Jack Lane is the Idaho guy. He's touted. He's with Luke Schleisner. They were at Idaho together in that pro style offense. And Micah just said it can be boring, but if it's successful, who cares? What have you seen out of the quarterback battle? And I asked you this kind of practice today, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but if you were the head coach with this team, who would you pick as a starter? But what have you seen out of the quarterbacks? And I'm kind of impressed with the freshman out of LA.
Well, I mean, everybody's impressed with the freshman. He can't throw though. He's an athletic guy. He can run a little bit, but he can't pass at this level. Not right now, at least, in my opinion. The other four, they're all the same to me. I like to point out Jack Lane, who I think the head guy has the most trust in and believes that he's going to make the right decisions. The big kid from Connecticut just got here this summer. So, I mean, you can't really he doesn't really have a command of the offense. I'm sure with all the checks that Eck is used to having for his quarterback in his system that they're going to be using. So I think he feels more confident, but he's got the arm. There's no other arm talent like his out there. He can't move, but I'm not, I don't have anything against guys who can't move. And a lot of people do. A lot of people want athletic, but the other guys ain't athletic. They just can move better than the big stiff, but they're not athletic guys. So, you're kind of stuck with, Lobstein. Everybody's kind of, singing his praises, but he's not athletic. He can run a little bit, but he's not athletic. And people kind of confuse that. If you're going to have a guy who's cannot RPO run it for you, you might as well get the stiff in there and just hand it off, bootleg, protect it, max it up, protect it, and let the arm show you what it can do. I don't see guys separating and getting open. I like the receivers coach. I like how he's coaching them. I like how he's teaching them. But I don't see a guy out there that can get separation and make the catch because they're not catching the ball like I want them to. But, I've got to hold off judgment on that until I see more once the game starts. But they're all the same. The quarterbacks are all the same. Even Mossenbacher, the lefty out of LA Southwest and Los Angeles, he's a preferred walk-on kid that played against Lane in high school. They went to rival high schools. But they're, I just don't see none of them because their arms don't jump out at me. And when your arm don't jump out, your athleticism has to jump out. And, it's like, when I watched the kid that we had a couple years back, that Dylan, what was the kid, Hopkins, he had no athletic ability, but the guy could make every throw. I mean, his arm jumped out at you. He could make the throws. He was in Bryant Vincent's system. He kind of knew it like the back of his hand. I don't see a guy like that with the throws. I'm looking at these deep end cuts, and I don't see Jack Lane's kind of out there like he's 7-on-7, like lobbing the ball, and that's not going to work. And so despite the fact that he knows the system, Lobstein, nothing excites me about him as far as making throws either. But I really like the big stiff, the kid out of Connecticut. What's his name? I'm trying to think of his
Cole
name
Welliver.
right now as I'm looking for.
Welliver, yeah.
Cole Welliver, Ned.
Yeah, Cole Welliver. Yeah. I mean, I saw him in a red zone a couple days ago. I mean, he makes throws that the big boys can make. His ball's not looping into the end zone. It's coming straight on a dime. Now the guys can't make plays on it. He's not. I haven't seen that receiver, okay, oh yeah, it's coming. I'm ready for it. Like it's not. It's coming in hot. They can't handle it. And to me, and he's too nice a guy because he's from Connecticut. if he was from New York City, he'd be cussing them out for not catching his passes, or he's from LA or somewhere, hey man, you got to make that catch, you know what? But he's a nice suburban kid, he's going to, pat the guy's gate, get the ball next time. I'm like, no, they got to make that catch. Or, tell him, hey, I ain't throwing you no more balls until you can make a good catch. You got to do stuff. He lacks that kind of fire, that tough guy, that city fire that you would have, from the South Valley or East LA or New York City or somewhere. I don't see that in the big guy, because he can definitely make the throws. And I don't see guys, trying to say, hey, man, this is the way it's supposed to be. I don't see any receivers really kind of saying, hey, this is the guy I want to catch best, because they know Jack Lane is the incumbent, the favorite, but he doesn't throw like this other guy. And so, you can manufacture. I mean, there's all different kind of ways to skin that cat. Maybe, Jack Lane's ball comes in a little softer and they kind of like that. But I don't know. I got to wait and see this Jack Lane. He only played 6 games last year for them. I want to see him operate when the lights come on. And apparently they believe that he's going to be the best decision maker. He's going to be the guy that they want to go to. I just don't see the arm talent. I just don't see FBS arm talent. And you may not have to. Maybe you're just running the ball. But he doesn't give you any options running the ball. I want to see if he can give me something athletically, and that's why they're going to make him the favorite to start.
Ed, do you have anything?
Yeah, Ned, I got to say that, the conversations we've had you on the show, 15, 20 times. And I think one of the things you always talk about is, can they spin? Can the quarterback spin? You always mention that. You mentioned quarterbacks that you believe were good at spinning. And, I listened intently. And, I think your evaluation of those quarterbacks has definitely got my ear bent a little bit. And I think Coach Eck, I asked him about Jack Lane 2 months ago, and that's about what he said. He's solid. He can run the RPO. In other words, it doesn't jump out at you. And he said that about he can make passes, but I didn't hear in Coach Eck's description of him that we had a guy that's going to have a rocket arm or legs he's going to run the RPO well. Maybe he's solid and steady, but if you haven't seen it and you watch every rep and you watch with a different eye than anyone I know. That kind, again, you're still willing to see. Let's wait and see when the lights come on, how they're going to perform. And I think your other point, a lot of these FCS guys, how are they going to perform? It's different when you play, your FCS team, you play a D1 team twice a year, and then, you play your FCS schedule. So there's a lot of things that you mentioned. I think that people who are listening need to pay attention to. I'm sure they are. That's why we have you on. But your description of the receiver is a little concerning to me too. But Keegan Johnson hasn't been out there in practice much. He's in and out, and even he was out in spring too. So that's a little concerning. Their receiver room, if you do remember, had Nick Trujillo, Wysong, Caleb Medford. They had a deep receiving room last year in Dampier at quarterback. You asked who the playmakers were: Jacobs, Sanders, Dampier, Wysong, up for the Bolitnikoff Award this year. They had playmakers, man. So I think there's all the questions there. Yeah. We don't know who's going to be in because they haven't played. Yeah, so I think all those things that you mentioned are definitely, Ned. We pull each other's chain, but much respect to you, brother. You know that. So I think all those things. And you mentioned. I want to mention too, just one thing, Ned, real quick. Gabe Lopez inside. You and I talked about this at practice the other day. How different it is to hold the point of attack is inside than it is at out. When you're playing on the edge.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting double teamed by guys 310. He's got to take on tackles. I mean, he's got to take on 6'6", 310 guys. Now, there's some certain techniques you can use, but that only goes so far, man. You got to have some lead in your behind. You got to have some beef, and it's going to be interesting to see how he holds up inside there. And that's the one thing the guys would ask him all the time. The former alumni guys that played. Because I introduced him to him, last year in the spring before Bronco, banned everybody from practice. He came down. I introduced him to a couple of D linemen that played when I played, Fred Beatty and some of those guys. And the first thing they asked him was, "How much do you weigh?" And he said sheepishly said, 245, 250. And they're like, "Oh, okay," because they know you're going to have to be bigger to play inside. And so he's one of those guys that's got linebacker weight. He's got to be, in the 265, 260, 870 range, to hold up in there. So, we're going to see what happens. We'll see. He's a fighter. He's tough. And I really respect the fact that he's accepted, and he's coachable, and he's taken on the task of moving inside when they couldn't find the guys that could play inside. I mean, Isaiah Silva used to play, defensive line, and he's moved over to offensive line. He's going to try and be their starting guard. But I want to see them play under duress when they're tired. Like, I don't see Isaiah and those guys playing a lot of reps, and I think it's intentional. They're trying to save the guys for the games, and I understand that. But at the same time, are we going to lose some physicality as a result of that? So we're going to see. I mean, maybe you just never know. It may work in our benefit that these guys are not getting as many reps and not really working as hard as you would think they should be at this point in time in camp. But we don't have the major injuries at the offensive line, and they're trying to keep them healthy and get them to that first game. The scrimmage, how physical they are in the scrimmage, and who plays and how well they play, and who flashes. The last scrimmage, people walked away a little disappointed because the offense didn't, you didn't see them generate any offense, and they're playing a lot of different guys. And so, at some point, you got to put those guys in that you're going to go with in the game, and they've got to do something. I mean, Jack Lane has got to lead these guys to some offense in practice, and I haven't seen it. Maybe you guys have seen it, but I haven't heard you guys speak on it. I haven't heard anybody say, "Hey, man, Jack drove 3 touchdowns this one practice, or he threw, really nice touchdown this practice," or I haven't heard or seen that. And so, but I've seen the big guy, get me to turn my head over there because of the way he was throwing the ball in there. But I didn't see the receiving core snatching balls up and making plays. And I don't see a guy that he's like, "Hey, I'm going to go to this guy all the time because I know this guy's going to make the play at receiver," because that's what you do when you have a guy, you're going to go to him. And I haven't seen that guy yet, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. And I got to be patient. I got to learn everybody's name and make sure I'm saying the right things and saying the guys pronounce the guys' names right. And when you have all these new guys, you and they're rotating so many guys in there. You see guys on the other field, and I've always been a guy who. That's how I found Nick Trujillo, because I would go watch the scout team stuff because I want to watch the defense, but I'd watch it from the offensive side, and I was like, "Hey man, who's this kid that keeps snatching the ball out? He's going to be a pretty good little player." And eventually he did. I don't know where. I think is he down in Louisiana, Monroe somewhere? Where is Trujillo at?
Yeah, he went down there.
Yeah, but I mean, it's that it just hasn't jumped out at me. I haven't been around as much as I was last year, but I couldn't see practice last year at all. So I got to wait until the games, and I saw tape and that kind of stuff, and learned off of that. But being able to get out here this summer and see a lot more, it's just one of those things where I'm going to give it some time and let Coach kind of grow on me and grow on the city and grow on the university here with his style of play and coming from the playoffs and winning wherever he's been. Let's see if it rubs off on us.
Ed, do you have anything else?
I don't. I think Ned has covered it practically A to Z. You can cover the special teams, which Ned is saying those really are important. He mentioned those too, so I have nothing else.
He is a former quarterback for the University of New Mexico, an NFL head coach. And you can catch him on the Lobo Radio Network as an analyst with the one, the only JJ Buck. Pre-game, halftime, and post-game during UNM football games. And he's always a pleasure to talk to. Mr. Ned James. Ned will be bugging you, and I'll be seeing you. I'll obviously see you tomorrow, but we'll be bugging you during the season. And I think I'll get your thoughts prior to Michigan. I won't ask many more cliche questions.
All right, guys. I'll see you. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Thanks,
That is Ned James. Appreciate him having him on. What I wanted to do was before I get to the comment section tonight, which has been entertaining.
To say the least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being out of practice, and I kind of asked Ned that was, and I didn't do it. We didn't do a show on Tuesday. I just think the team looks small, which, scares me. And I know that Jason Eck has done more with less at the Idaho level. I'm nothing against these guys. It's not personal. I don't know what we're going to get at quarterback. If you can keep them upright, it's scary. I am and I love Ned and I trust Ned. I think the running back room, with Scott Trey Humphrey and Deshaun Bankston, I think they're going to have depth there. And then the linebacking core with Randolph Kapai, Dimitri Johnson, and Jackson Eck. I think, those will be the strongest units. You had mentioned it. I was talking to Bo Davidson, the general manager on the sidelines, and he was kind of joking, like, we're tired of playing with ourselves, which is, you get 2 weeks in, and I'm sure, you are. You're tired of playing the same guys, all puns and jokes aside. You probably want to go out there and hit somebody that's not your teammate. So I don't know. I'm still, for somebody who's badmouthed that, not just that program, but that department for a long time. And I'm not a fan. I think it's, as I've jokingly said, it's a breath of fresh air with the administration. And, I judge them based off what media access they give, because Bronco shut down. And you heard me make the joke about Normandy all the time. I don't know how that's warming to a community. Now, obviously, you can hide behind things and almost go 9-3, 10-2, or you can be like Mike Shepard. You can be family. You can be a nice guy and say all the right things, and you go 2-10. And I will never take anything away from Jason Eck and that staff, Daniel DePrado. And throw out Bo Davidson, and then Spence Nowitzki's a hell of a interview. The defensive coordinator, Ed, your thoughts of what you saw when you've been out at practice.
Well, I think we've seen a lot of, enthusiasm. I saw, we saw what they were working on, special teams the other day, kickoff returns and field goals. So, and I think the day before they were just going through a lot of drills when I was there. I've been there 3 times. So when we watched them go through the special teams kickoff return, some deep end zone passes to receiver, sideline passes. And so I got to say, what Ned said, that guy knows football, man. So, we have to listen and hope for the best. I think I'm a little concerned what he said about the quarterback position. Because we, last year New Mexico had Devin Dampier, one of the best quarterbacks we've seen here since Donovan Portery, and they made a lot of plays. They had a good running back room, Eli Sanders and Jacobs. They had a deep receiving room. Their offensive line was pretty solid, so the offensive unit was pretty good, and the defensive unit struggled. They struggled, and I'm really questioning that move about Gabe Lopez to the inside. Does he have the size to stand up against? Ned said this the other day, against those big tackles. Does he have the size to hold a point of attack? One of the commenters said that he hoped Ned was being overly critical. But I got to say one thing, and you know this too, Ryan. Ned is brutally honest. That's what he is. He's honest about things. As far as from a football evaluation standpoint, and I don't know that you know anybody that knows football the way he does. I don't know anybody that knows it close to what he knows. So, let's just hope that some of these things, he mentioned that the team, when the lights go on, they're, FCS, you got a new system, a new coaches, new everything. How are they going to respond at the 14th ranked team in the nation in Ann Arbor with 100,000 fans there? How will they respond? So I'm a little concerned about the quarterback. Some other units, he mentioned the receivers. Nothing stood out to him. Although Keegan Johnson has been out of the lineup. That's their number 1 guy. And hopefully he stays healthy. Their Coach X said he's holding him in and out. He doesn't want him to get hurt again. So I don't know. You mentioned it too, though. They're tired of seeing each other. They need to hit something else. So August 30th, right around the corner. You mentioned that 16 days away. So I know I'm ready to see it. But I think some of those things that Ned said, we have to listen to. I'm not saying he's 100% spot on, but he looks at things from a different eye than anybody that we know. So hopefully we'll, see August 30th what happens. And he said that. Let's give him a chance.
Yeah, I trust Ned. I mean, at the level he's coached at. Gilbert Chavez, I'm a bit concerned after listening to Ned. Hopefully he was being overly critical. Ned's a friend. I think Ned was a little nice. But I think he also calls it as he sees it. Sean, how you doing tonight? Love the field level insight. Juan, how you doing, Juan? Tonight, Juan Bay is if anyone here loves ball, please go watch Keyshawn James newbie against Oregon. He gave those tackles hell all game long. Diego Romero, after the first 2 weeks, I believe a lot of questions will be answered. I think whatever shortcomings this team will have will be barely fixed. I believe that too, because Jason Eck, and I've said it a million times, has done more with less. And now to the comment of the night, and I'll start with this one. Royce Lakey III, and I hope I pronounced your name right. You New Mexicans my entire life. Period. Been nothing but a bunch of pussies forever. All right. And then this one I loved because I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I'm sorry. Damn it. Where'd it go? The one mentioning pussies was my favorite one. Now I can't say the F word tonight because that's my curse vulgar word of the show. Oh man, where'd it go? No, I won't delete your comments. Oh, I can't find it because I'm tired and I don't feel the best today.
There's also some other good ones,
there's always they're always good. No, it was about the Lobo Club, and I was like, "What the hell are you talking about?"
Oh, here it is. Wow, you guys are bad. Let me shut off. Lobo Club needs to look at this crap.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know what? But that's he's got enough. That's good. I think there's some other people that have good comments. I think you should our regular crew here.
Yeah, no. My question to you, Royce, and I'm going to say it bluntly, not to irritate some sponsors. We're an independent outlet from UNM. What the fuck is the Lobo Club going to do? I don't know. Anyway, I thought it was nice to have Micah on tonight, and thanks everybody for watching. We don't usually get those trolls. I mean, that politician guy that was giving me a hard time. It actually makes for entertaining things here. Keep a lookout next week. Matt Villarreal, who's a St. Pius, it's just a bunch of St. Pius guys. He worked for Gonzaga basketball and is now back at UNM as a videographer, kind of special content. Looking forward to conversation with him. He said it was his dream job to have work for Lobo football. So he'll be on next week. I got to text him back. Former voice, Eric G from 95.9. He's now in Tulsa or Fayetteville. I got to narrow that down. He's covering SEC country. He's an Oklahoma grad. Bug him next week. I got to text Sam Smith. He's an assignment editor over at KOAT, but he covered a lot of sports in Atlanta. And definitely hit up Kurt Roth. He'll be joining us next week. We've got more coming with the 505 Sports Venture Foundation, the Lobo Alliance. So looking forward to that. And then, the following week, an Out Your Ass show previewing this 2025 Lobo football season. I'm looking forward to it. I will be at all the away games covering it. Probably not too much enjoyment of Royce Lakey III. Yeah, I didn't have much energy tonight. That is my fault. But we appreciate everybody watching. Our sponsors, Capital Fort Santa Fe, Neil at Affordable Solar, Armando over at Turquoise Desert Tap Room, Ed, as always, the voice of Western New Mexico Mustangs, and voice at ProView Networks, Mr. Ed Nunez, not to be confused with the athletic director at the University of Houston. Hey, thanks to Micah Gray. Thanks to Ned James, as always. Ed, any final thoughts like Jerry Springer?
You know, one thing that struck me about Micah, very intelligent young man. I really enjoyed listening to that guy. Commercial real estate he's involved with. And I love that he put the Lobo hat on, man, the helmet. I'd love to talk to him again. He had quite the career at Clovis, and his description of legendary Eric Roanhouse was really well thought out. And I appreciated that because Eric Roanhouse was larger than life. Roanhouse football field. They just named it about 2 years ago. So good pickup there.
Yeah, no, I don't know, I don't follow high school athletics. I mean, I would think you're down in Clovis, Artesia, West Texas. That's some good stuff. I'm sorry, some more comments came in. Keno, how you doing, man? Yes, I did. I don't know the full story. I saw it. If you love college football like I do, I love Joe Klatt and I love Josh Pate. Check out Pate State University. I'm throwing those out there. If you like college football nationally, like I do. Diego Romero, Ryan, Ed, great show tonight. Can't wait to see what's next. I guess we're a bunch of wimps because that's a very positive comment. Eric G has a distinct voice. Forgot about him. Love Eric G. Brandon Vogt over at 772. Hey, Ryan, have you seen Pavia doing Spanish music videos? No, I haven't. If you have me on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, send them to me or I'll look them up. Has anybody watched Any Given Saturday on Netflix? It was phenomenal. It's covering last season in the SEC. Man, Netflix pumps out a lot of crap like this show. Too bad we're not affiliated with Netflix. It was an awesome watch. I watched it all Saturday night in one sitting. I was trying to write something, and it just hasn't happened. Sean, Penn State alumni and Air Force content writer here. Privileged to take great content across CFB landscape. The production absolutely one I enjoy as many things. Sean, you didn't have to say that, but I appreciate that. I enjoyed it, and I gave kind of Pavia the hard time. Let's see, We Are New Mexico. I enjoy the crosses in the back, and then a comment that says nothing but a bunch of pussies, and then oh man, damn it, where'd it go? Here we go. I have honest and great questions, but you privileges biznutches do what you do. No, I will not delete these comments. They're gold. Where's the one where he said shit? And Eric's gonna be so mad at me. I can see Eric calling me in the morning. Anyway, that's enough of that.
He's definitely going to.
Yeah, he's definitely gonna call me and be mad.
Yeah.
That's what happens when I'm allowed to host the show. I don't write like this. We do thank everybody for watching. I apologize for my low energy. I don't know what's happened as I've gotten older. I ate something bad. I probably need to eat healthier. So that didn't help. Hopefully more content on our website. Check it out, the Pit Press NM. Check out our social media pages, exclusive updates, interviews. Thanks to Jeffrey Gordon, dude. I don't know if I mentioned you enough. Find us on Instagram, X, Facebook at the Pit Press NM. And again, we're on TikTok at the Pit Press. Check out the Pit Press Plus. And what was I going to say? I completely forgot what I was going to say because this has been a fantastic show to host tonight. I'll say it again. Thanks to Micah Gray. Thanks to Ned James. Everybody have a great weekend. And then at that point, we're a week away from week 0 of college football. And then 2 weeks away from a full slate of college football, which I cannot wait for. And for those of you who normally watch our content, means we're ever so close to basketball returning. So appreciate everybody watching tonight. For those who aren't trolling us, who didn't make a fake account pretending to be a Christian, we're using that language. Appreciate everybody. And as I always say, for Eric Moulton Ed Nunez, Nick Nunez, Jacob Neff, Jeffrey Gordon. Did I say Eric Moulton? Myself, Ryan Tamori. Don't do anything that I would do, and everybody have a great weekend. We'll talk to you Tuesday.